Okay, so a documentary that was playing at Fantasia, right? Played on the 31st and the 7th, I believe it was, is Satan Wants You. Oh my gosh, this thing is bananas, right? It is written and directed by Steve J. Adams and Sean Horlor. It looks like those two work together a lot, right? So yeah, they wrote and directed. It's produced by Michael Grand and Melissa James. It is executive produced by Steve J. Adams, Sean Horlor, associate produced by Haley Morin. Music was handled by Mark Dolmont. Blake Davey was on cinematography. Graham Q edits. O'Neill Drummond costume design. And yeah, some of the people we heard from during this is Blanche Barton, Charles Ennis, Ken Lanning, Elizabeth Loftus, Sarah Marshall, Debbie Nathan, Charles Proby-Austman, who is one of Michelle's sisters, and Jeffrey S. Victor. So we also hear from Larry's ex-wife, Madeline. Madeline? Or was it Marilyn? Marilyn. Marilyn. We hear from one of his kids, one of his daughters, but I do not remember the name. The gist is this. The documentary tells the story of how the Satanic Panic of the 80s was ignited by Michelle Remembers, a memoir of psychiatrist, right? Larry Lawrence Pazder and Michelle, right? Michelle, God damn it, what is this woman's name again? Oh, my memory is so bad. God damn it, I think Michelle Watson Williams. I do have it here. Michelle Smith. Jesus Christ. Yes. The book relied on recovered memory therapy to uncover Michelle's abduction by baby stealing satanics. Right? That's the thing. Satanics. And so we hear, as I said, from Larry's ex-wife, his daughter. We hear from Michelle's sister, her friend who started off as a person who was transcribing all of these tapes. We hear from some police officers, some researchers, just all manner of different people, a journalist. So we're just getting all of this kind of information around what happened, right? So yeah, in 76, right? I think that's when the book, well, all of this kind of started, right? Supposedly, Michelle had a miscarriage. She'd been seeing, her psychiatrist, Larry, for 4 years, stopped, right? Had a miscarriage, started talking to him again. And then he was just like, oh, you should come in. And then they started this whole thing. And supposedly, yeah, that's when these repressed memories came out. And so we kind of get this whole thing recounted. It's like it's interesting just hearing all of this stuff, right? I think the documentary itself doesn't really, like, I think a couple of people say, yeah, this probably didn't happen, but there's no real just like, yeah, this was straight up bullshit. But there is clear evidence that a lot of this is straight lies. I mean, the crazy thing is, well, firstly, this happened with no internet, right? There was no internet in the 70s, 80s, you know? So, I mean, just for the average person to fact check, very difficult to do. And you have these people everywhere, talk shows, the news, just everywhere. Larry King, Geraldo, Sally, Jesse Raphael, does all of the big shows. I mean, Oprah did a thing on it. She didn't get them on it, but she did a thing on satanic, abductions and all of this. So all of this stuff is there. But the crazy thing is, right, we see old footage of them talking and everything like that. Shorty is smiling, right? They're both smiling. It's bizarre. Like, you watch them talk and you just go, nah, this is bullshit. Like, I think you've probably, watched a documentary, just heard someone talk about trauma, like being in a horrific incident. There is a way people talk, and it's not necessarily the person needs to be crying, but there is something in the voice, right? There is something that you can clearly see someone is going through something. Not here. There's just smiling and just it's bizarre. I think we hear a bit where he says that, once she remembers something, she then forgets, and I'm the only one that has the knowledge. Because in interviews, there's been like, oh, Michelle, how did this affect? And he's the one that, well, it affected her in this way. And that was his response, because she's now forgotten, and he's the only one that can remember all of this stuff, which, I mean, what is happening? It's so crazy. So crazy, it's weird as well, because like, Larry's daughter and wife blame Michelle's sister blames Larry, and the person that transcribed, her friend, blames Larry. So you've got these two different people blaming each other for the other person's situation, where I don't know, right? Because his ex-wife says that he'd seen this TV film, Sybil, right? And he turned to her and said, I want to be that kind of psychologist. I want to be famous. Now, who knows if that actually did happen, right? But you can definitely see he is loving the situation, right? They go to see the Pope. You've got the church involved. But, like, we hear from, like, a whole recording of one of these, priests talking about this, which just sounds crazy. You know what I mean? And it's just like, to go see the Pope, not everyone can go see the Pope. So you just think, just because these priests are like backing it doesn't mean shit, because they want to see the Pope. That's kudos in there, you know what I mean? In the people they run with, be like, yo, you saw the Pope? Shit. You know what I mean? It is crazy. It really is, right? And there's a bit towards the end where the ex-wife, does a little fact checking, and because this documentary then, towards the end, it ties it into Pizzagate, QAnon, and this kind of thing, and people being like, oh yeah, history kind of repeats itself, just all this fake news out there. But I think the big thing being, what up with all the journalists, right? What's with all the talk show hosts and the news outlets? Because they are meant to be doing research into the people they're having on, right? You're not meant to just have any, like someone says, oh, yeah, I saw this happen, right? And people are like, oh, that's true. No, you would look into it, you check, you'd be like, okay, if they're saying they were abducted for over a year, is there something that shows they were missing? Is there a police report? What is there? So then if it shows that you were out and about every fucking day, but you were supposedly abducted, right? There's claims of not knowing languages, right? When you do. It's like Larry had gone to Nigeria, some church bullshit, right? And you know how the church be, right? Would go to Africa, South America, just like remote places, and then claim that these heathens are doing these things and they need the church so he's like, oh, I saw loads of satanic rituals in Nigeria, but with no evidence, just him claiming this stuff. So it's all very crazy, very crazy, you know? It it is intriguing. I would have liked, you know, for some actual fact checking from the documentary, right? Because they're showing masks and stuff in Nigeria, but there's nothing to be like, actually, these are from this and this, or this is this and this, because there's nothing satanic about what we're seeing, right? It doesn't look crazy. It just looks, different. It's different culture, right? So, yeah, I would have liked the documentary to kind of delve into, right? Give that counterbalance, because you have, as I said, there's a few people that, you know, dispute some of the stuff, but they're all tied to it in a way, so it's all very subjective, you know. But yeah, it's a crazy thing, and especially when you grew up in the 80s, right? You definitely heard Satanic Panic. You heard the term, but to kind of see how all of that took birth, and yeah, how crazy, right? How obvious it, like, yeah, I'm gonna say it was bullshit. It's a lie. You can clearly see it's a lie, right? Especially we know for a fact that, people can implant memories, right? You can lead people to think things, especially when people were troubled, right? When people were troubled and clearly, slightly off balanced, right? You can be like, oh, that was probably this. You know what I mean? Like, therapists do that shit, right? If you talk about a certain thing, they'll sometimes be, do you think it was because you were abused? And it's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, yo, are you crazy? But we also, there is a bit about that and insurance and how that happens. And we look at a case where a teacher went to jail for 5 years before she was released because of claims. And here's a big thing, right? When people are going, yes, I was repeatedly sodomized. Okay. Right. Now, here's the thing, right? When someone reports a rape, right, they go to hospital because you can see like vaginal tearing, anal tearing. right? You can see, like, if you're saying swords were put in the vagina and the arsehole, there's gonna be marks, right? You will be able to see that, but there's nothing on that, right? There's nothing on these sorts of tests, and yeah, so it's fascinating. Yeah, I would have liked a little bit more, but it's definitely an intriguing documentary. It's I think it's got a few more days at some festivals, so I'll put in that information on the website if you want to check this out. And I think it might have been picked up by Tubi. I think I saw that. So yeah, if you want to watch this crazy ass dark Satan wants you people, well, no, it's called Satan Wants You. I'm saying you people, if you want to watch it, then yeah, boy, but go in with a open mind and your skeptical glasses on. That's what I would say.